All right, it looks like we have begun the live chat. Yes, so welcome back, Charles. So we actually did a live discussion together on your channel. This was, shoot, man, time has flown. I think it's been like a month already.
4 weeks, yeah, I would say.
Yeah, so we discussed a little bit, just kind of our own background, our own experiences with nutrition and whatnot. But I want to go ahead and, introduce, because someone told me in one of my other videos that I didn't make a good introduction. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Jonathan Arizari. I've been a coach, lifestyle coach for over 8 or 9 years, working with different clientele, whether it be just the average person that's looking to lose weight, plenty of bodybuilders and different physique competitors over the time, and helping them become their best selves on stage. And yeah, so just a wider range of clientele. And this is essentially what I've done over the last 8 or 9 years. And I want to introduce you, Charles. Where are you from? What is your background? What is it that you do?
Yeah, so my name is Charles Rüffieux, and Rüffieux is a French name. I'm from Switzerland, so we speak more than one language here, but French is one of them. So that's the reason why my name is French. And I'm also a coach. I'm into lifting since I'm 16, so almost 10 years. And I'm also coaching since almost 2 years now consistently. And I decided to just coach entrepreneurs because I realized that I have also a specific knowledge in like nootropics and supplements, and I realized that I can really help people to get the last percentages out of the nutrition and the supplementation. And I realized that especially entrepreneurs, they really benefit from these last 1 or 2 percentages increase in their performance, not just bodily or physical performance, but also their mental performance. So that's the thing I'm doing right now. It's my biggest passion. It has been my biggest passion. And on YouTube, I'm actually doing or started a podcast as a hobby, as a side hustle. And yeah, I guess I started 4 weeks ago when we did the first live stream with you. And I'm really glad it didn't work the first time, so I had to do it myself. And I realized that it's actually easier than I thought to do live streams. So now I'm onto the podcast game as well here on YouTube, because I think like there are a lot of people that have specific and good at advanced knowledge, and I just want to bring these people together and just have a chat like we do here.
Yeah, I agree. That's essentially what I want to do, honestly, with the channel, is just bringing on all different kinds of personalities like yourself. Should I even want to get with even some of these pro bodybuilders as well, just really get a like nice wider range of just people, and just speaking about their spirit, their experiences, their journey within fitness and life, etc. Just like we're doing here today. So when did you start doing this and working with this particular clientele, and what got you involved with it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was always like coaching people for free in the beginning, mostly Gen Pop people from the general population. But I got a little bit frustrated with them because I was like, dude, I have so much more knowledge. I could help them like way more, but I was not really able to apply it. And they also had like problems with adherence. You know how it is when you coach like for free and stuff. So then I started to give my entrepreneur friends advice for free. I told them, hey, try this supplement, try L-theanine, try blue light blocker glasses like these here for better sleep, track your protein, track your calories, and they were all blown away. And then I realized, dude, I can really give these guys the best coaching ever, because I'm an entrepreneur myself. I was not always an entrepreneur, not full time, but I was always a guy that was like, doing the best he could. I was always interested in optimizing my performance. Every little percentage I was able to get out of my performance, mental and physical, I tried to get out of it. So I decided last year to coach entrepreneurs, and then also decided to just coach German-speaking entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in Switzerland, because there's nobody doing that here. And I see just a huge demand. And then I'm also using the knowledge I gathered on my YouTube channel. I talk a lot about right now, or better say a couple of months ago, I started to talk about adaptogenic herbs. Because I had problems I had not strong anxiety, but I realized my mind was always racing. And it's interesting, like some guys say, yeah, just meditate and you will control your mind. But the problem is, if you have biological problems with your neurotransmitters, if you don't have enough GABA in your brain, you can meditate as much as you want, you will not optimize your performance. So if you then take supplements to kind of help you to experience more GABA, you can also meditate better, you will be a happier human being, and it's all interconnected. So I try to find a holistic approach to my coaching, and I don't think that you can just get rid of all of the problems with just willpower itself. You also kind of need to optimize your environment and optimize your supplementation, your nutrition, because actually your environment and your nutrition will also basically influence how much willpower you have at the end of the day. And this is also a huge thing. Most people think like, yeah, I can get rid of all of my problems with more willpower, with more discipline. But actually more discipline and more willpower is not the answer. The answer is better environment, better habits. That's the thing I'm all about.
Right. Honestly, that's where I think one of the main lessons that I learned within bodybuilding actually was that itself, is that the environment plays a huge key. And there's like a saying, motivation will only take you so far, right? It's like you have to be able to essentially continue to just build upon itself and create that momentum. And I feel like that's where I think that a lot of that ties into that. But that's very interesting when it comes to these adaptogens and learning and understanding how, honestly, like even just with hormones and stuff, and how that also plays a huge role as well. And being able to basically concentrate. You see this a lot with kids, right? Where like nowadays in school, like these children, they have a hard time essentially concentrating and stuff. And I couldn't imagine how that would be, I guess you could say, how like the nutrition and these certain things that you're mentioning could play a huge role, and honestly being able to benefit them.
Totally. Do you know the book, The Ultra Mind Solution by Dr. Mark Hyman?
Yes, I haven't read it, but I do know it.
Dude, it's so underrated. It's one of the best books I've ever read about nutrition, especially. And he has like one page where he shows a writing of a kid that was gluten intolerant, and he showed how this kid was writing his name as everything. And then on the next page, you see how the kid was writing as soon as he cut out gluten off his diet, and it was like black and white, like huge improvement.
Wow.
And that's just one of the examples from the book. So it's a really underrated book. I can really recommend it, because it explains how your nutrition will affect your neurotransmitters and how then it will affect your behavior.
Oh man, it's everything. And I feel like this is one of the topics that I would love to continue to touch up on, man, because I feel like this is a huge key for just anyone in general in life, period. And now that brings to this that I want to discuss is like, okay, so how long have you been involved in YouTube?
Since 2016.
And when you first created your YouTube channel, what were the main things that you were talking about?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was younger back then, a little bit naive, and I wanted to talk about personal development, because I'm also a huge believer in like reading a lot of books in my room. I have over 300 books. I just bought my first Kindle a couple of hours ago because I don't have any space anymore to store my books. And I was always really interested in personal growth. So I started to work out in the gym, and I realized, hey, I can change my physical appearance. I can probably also change my mindset. So then I started to read a ton of books, because I realized there are authors out there. They studied one topic. They studied it for perhaps 10 or 20 years. They paid editors to help them to put the best ideas that they have down on paper, so we can understand it even better. You can basically buy 20 years of experience for like $15. And as soon as I realized that, when I was like 21, I got addicted to reading. So then I wanted to just share the knowledge I gathered on my YouTube channel. And I used also my YouTube channel to improve my English, because my English was not always as good as right now, even though I could still improve. But I just used it as a tool to share my knowledge, to like summarize books. And then later on, I decided to talk about nutrition. Back then I was still on a plant-based vegan diet. I talked about that, and now I use it as a tool for my podcast, because I realized through all the years I'm on YouTube, I've known a lot of cool people that have specific knowledge in one area, like you are one, Bobby, from Bobby's perspective. I also talked with, perhaps you know, Mark Manson, the author of the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. My first mentor, he organized the personal development conference in Switzerland. And Mark Manson was also there, so I interviewed him in 2016. And it's funny, like back in the days, he told me like, yeah, my new book will be called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, but it was not out back then. So I just put the book title of the book in my interview. And I guess it's even online to this day. You can search for the book title and then the interview pops up. I'm like 25 pounds heavier than right now. I had like blonde colored hair and I was like talking with him about the book and everything. So since I'm like 22, I was in this personal development world. And yeah, that's the reason why I decided then to come on YouTube. I always wanted just to share value, and I had no intention of like making money or being like super famous or something.
Right.
I just wanted to like share some value and give my life more meaning by doing that.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And that, you know, you'll find that book literally everywhere. Like I've seen it in every single bookstore that I come across, whether they be in the airports, any bookstore, just even in Thailand. When I was in Thailand, man, it was like literally everywhere. So that's pretty cool.
So, but it's funny because if you think about the author, you think like, he has his life together. He's like the perfect guy because he talks about personal development. But actually, when I've met him in real life, like, first of all, he was sleeping when we had dinner, so he came like too late, and he was not able to find the venue. So he texted me in WhatsApp like, "Dude, where's the venue? Can you like come and pick me up and stuff?" But he's a funny dude, and what I learned from him is he's so at ease with himself. So he's just like, he doesn't really care. He's like really fun. He's like happy with his life. He gives value, and he's like just he accepts his silliness, and he's just like has a lot of self-acceptance. So it's really interesting to see these people then in real life.
I think that's what it's all about, man. That's what true happiness kind of lies, is being able to accept yourself for who you are, and not necessarily taking yourself too seriously.
Yes, I would say, yeah. Good point.
So let's talk about nutrition, man. So you say that you did, you're like back in the day, up until recently, actually, you had a lot more essentially like just vegan topic videos. That's where you base your nutrition off of. How long was that journey of yours, and when did this eventually switch over, and why?
Yeah, so I was vegan for 3 years, almost super strict. I had perhaps 5 or 6 times where I ate meat and fish and some dairy, I guess. Yeah, so I was basically vegan for 3 years.
So you were never really vegan.
That's the fair. I wanted to say that. Yeah, I was never really.
I'm joking, man.
But to be honest, I was thinking about that argument, and I guess it's even true because I was not really vegan for the animals. You know, I was never really vegan for the animals.
Right.
So you could argue I was not really vegan. And then I stopped because I realized I got a little bit of anxiety. A little bit is not. I mean, I got anxiety. Let's call it like that. I also got more paranoid. And I never really thought it was because of the vegan diet. I had like some heart palpitations here and there. I was really, really stressed. My caffeine tolerance went down. But then I just went on with my life, and I saw Bobby's perspective on YouTube back then. I followed him really closely. And I saw then that he quit the vegan diet in 2018, I guess around December. And I was watching his videos. I was really interested why he quit. And then he said in one of the live streams with Tristan from the YouTube channel Primal Edge Health, he said, yeah, I became more anxious and more paranoid. And then it hit me. I was like, dude, the same happened to me. Perhaps it is because of the vegan diet. And back then I also got the skinny fat because I thought like, oh, it's such a great idea to decrease my protein because protein increases IGF-1, and IGF-1 could increase the risk of getting cancer, even though like I digged into some more research and it's not actually that black and white, but I thought that back in the day. So I got skinny fat, and I realized, okay, I want to get my shape back, and I will get my shape back way easier if I consume more animal products. And I will perhaps also get rid of my anxiety if I consume again animal products. And back then, dude, I took like 13 different supplements on a daily basis. I would say 13 or 14. And I realized, dude, I'm taking so many supplements. I don't know what is in the supplements. I don't know if there's any lead or lead or mercury or arsenic. You know, I was like, dude, let's just stop that stuff. Let's just experiment. And then I basically said, okay, I do it as an experiment. I tried it out for 1 month. And then I tried it out for 1 month, and I realized, dude, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling better. Let's just follow through. And I dove into because right now, as people watching that, they know, like right now, the ex-vegan movement is pretty strong, and people are coming out with really good arguments why veganism is actually perhaps not that vegan as most people think, because animals die when they harvest like wheat and stuff, and if you would eat grass-fed animals, you would kill less animals than if you would eat like quinoa. So yeah, because of that movement, then I decided, come on, let's just like stop. And now I'm not vegan anymore, but I'm glad I was for 3 years, because I believe it makes me a better coach. Same for you, because you saw both sides of the coin. You're not just a guy like talking theory because you've read it somewhere. You actually have been at war at the front,
Right,
and
right.
you have seen it.
Absolutely, man. I think that's the one thing that you gain from it is the experience, the true, because any real scientist will actually go through with it, right? So, like for me, the reason why I did it, full on basically, was because like if you don't do it 100%, then how are you supposed to know whether or not this is any good, and any of this could be true. And likewise, like because you begin to get convinced in a way that okay, like we don't necessarily need so much protein, even though there is plenty of science. Like when it comes to like, because bodybuilders are essentially their own scientists, right? We've been performing different sorts of ways of basically theories being applied when it comes to how many grams per protein we should consume on a daily basis, and how this will essentially react with the body, and when it comes to whether muscular growth or maintaining lean body mass, etc. So I feel like they do a really really good job convincing you that nutrition isn't what we've all been cracked up to be, especially like let's say whether it be eating certain food being bad, right?
Yes, that's a good point. They kind of convince you that your nutrition is really black and white, which it really isn't that black and
Yeah.
white.
And then and it really kind of goes back to honestly, because like growing up, whenever I first started bodybuilding, I was a huge Lane Norton fan. I don't know if you've heard of Lane Norton before.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so like I followed him closely, man, and like I really loved his approach, and that's when I started diving into just counting my own macros and essentially doing my nutrition in that way. And in reality, that actually got me my most conditioned ever on stage, was doing macros, and basically just like being like, of course you usually have like some core foods that you would use throughout the week and whatnot, but it allowed for a little bit of flexibility in the diet. So it's like, let's say, it's one of those things, right? It's like if you want to throw in a cookie this one day, it's not going to throw your progress off, so it's like, I kept that in mind, and not that I would ever really consume cookies and stuff, but, it allowed for like, let's say if I wanted to do oatmeal or cream of rice another day and maybe add a little bit of peanut butter into the diet this one particular day, and being able to do things like that. And again, creating that balance through your food choices, making sure that the whole basis of your food was real, like just nutritionally sound, nutritionally dense foods. And it worked. And it worked. But it's like, when I'm not gonna lie, like whenever I dove into the whole plant-based nutritional world, like it almost made me feel like I had to throw all that knowledge out of the window. Thank God I didn't. Of course I have clients that I work with all different spectrums. So it's not like I ever just threw that out completely. But yeah, man, it almost made me feel that way. Like I was having to start over again. It was quite interesting.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I had almost the same feeling. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it's also something that I always, when I was consuming these plant-based doctors on YouTube, I always thought in the back of my mind, this can't be true. This can't be true. And I always thought it, like when he came up with like meat is so bad, and also like they were contradicting themselves. Like actually, also like Dr. Greger said once, like, yeah, if you consume more than 100 grams of protein, it's bad for your health. And then I guess I asked him or somebody else in the comments, like, yeah, but what happens if you consume it with or through like plant-based proteins? Then he's like, yo, if you consume it through lentils and stuff, you don't need to worry. And in the back of my head, I was like, dude, but do you still have amino acids in the plant-based protein sources? Yeah, of course, the ratio is not the same.
Right.
But
so you're gonna have.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I apologize, man. Yeah, you're not gonna have as much leucine in the diet, which I believe that's the anabolic component to when it comes to different protein sources. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, that's one of the kind of like little holes that I found was that like, yeah, because they'll use the China study a lot. And the China study, essentially, if you really look into it, is really not anything at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't show much. And you know, and it's like when they use the testing on, I believe the mice it was when they were giving it a particular protein, like none of this stuff is going to happen in real life. So it's like it's not really applicable. And
Yes.
so it's just like, you know, those are the certain things that I kind of tended to kind of see over time. And it's not for me, again, it's not for me to ever say, like, I'm not going to sit here and ever be like kick anyone to the curb and say they shouldn't be, because you know there are still, you know, there are plenty of people that I see on YouTube land and you know around the world, like because I'm good friends with Brian Turner, for example. You know, he seems to be doing quite well when it comes to, you know, handling himself with a vegan diet. So it's not to sit here and say that everyone cannot do it, but yeah, you know, it's not an end all be all. You know, it's not like
That's
it's
true.
we can sit here and say that everyone should be 100% plant based and that our human physiology is meant for it. Because clearly, there's plenty of people that are having issues, and you being one of them. Other than like, let's say, anxiety and stuff, what are some of the other things that you had dealt with whenever it came to the nutrition? And again, this is not for people that are listening. This is not for us to shoot this down in any way, because I don't ever want to come off as like being some sort of negative person. But you know, I really want people to understand that this is not a one size fit all. You know, everyone is different for sure.
Yeah, totally. One thing I just want to add really quick to what you said before is what most plant-based doctors also not realize is most health problems are also created because people just have too much body fat. And if you're like a natural lifter or not natural, I don't care what you do, but if you lift like in the gym and if you have like low body fat, most of the problems people have out there, you will not experience through your life. Like, I don't care what you eat. If you don't eat like pure like trans fatty acids all day long, if you eat like a more or less balanced diet, quote unquote, and if you have low body fat, you don't need to worry too much about all these health problems, because also your insulin sensitivity is higher, you can digest carbs better and all that stuff. I just wanted to add this out there because you just made me realize that during that podcast.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, because here's the things, like I have clients, you know, I have them do their blood work and stuff, and the majority of them eat a normal, you know, just bodybuilding diet, right? And their numbers will come back great. You know, like this, and again, it really has to do with, like you said, body composition being one of the main ones. Because if you're able to maintain yourself in a rather healthy manner, then you won't end up having any of these problems. I think the biggest thing, more or less, is just really when everything boils down to it, is digestion, and whether or not your body can handle the foods that you are consuming and able to process them properly, so that you can be able to extract the nutrients and use them, you know, to their fullest potential, whether it be plant-based or not.
Yes, totally. Also, thing I want to add here in really quick is I realize also that most bodybuilders I know are one of the healthiest people I know personally, because they also really focus on sleep. A lot of them really focus on sleep. Their diet is perhaps not perfect on paper, but because they get their 8 hours of sleep on a daily basis, it's like crazy. They're like really healthy. Like, it's just like incredible. Like, we can do a lot with sleep. It's so underrated.
Man, big time. Big time. I have clients that like I have a training client. He basically just personal trains. He has his own studio, and you'll tell, like, whenever he's not getting enough rest is whenever you start to get sick. And that is one of the most important factors. I feel like you said, you know, that is one thing with bodybuilding, is that you do emphasize on the resting. You know, I know I do for myself. That's kind of one thing that I can enjoy actually being back home now that I'm back here in Texas, is like, you know, I can really kind of focus more on getting more rest and creating a more balanced lifestyle for myself. Because when I was out in Thailand, man, it was like constantly on the go, dude. It was fun, man. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed my time out there, but I can definitely see that I'm a bit more calmer in a way, and I'm getting more sleep, and I can feel the difference within myself too.
Yeah, totally. More willpower, more health. Yeah, it's true. So I just want to answer your question. Like, on the vegan diet, I was lucky with my digestion. I never had huge problems. Sometimes I had problems when I was eating too many chickpeas at the same time. Perhaps like 750 grams of cooked chickpeas at once. Like I did perhaps like once a month or something. Yeah, then I had some issues, but otherwise not really. I had have a good gut like regarding that. But what I realized looking back is the meals didn't satisfy me as much as right now. Since I introduced animal products, I can eat less food and I'm just like, I'm good. You know, I can eat the food and I don't need to eat more. But back in the days, I had to eat like huge meals, even though my body fat percentage was the same, my calories were the same, my activity was the same. But it's weird. I don't know what it is. Perhaps the body realizes that a lot of bioavailable nutrients are there, because right now I also eat liver, a lot of beef liver, grass-fed beef liver here, 2 to 3 times a week, salmon and stuff like that. So perhaps my body realizes, hey, dude, you eat so much nutrition dense foods. Yeah, chill. You don't need more food. So it's pretty interesting.
That's one thing that I feel like I can say that I've benefited from transitioning and basically getting and understanding one side to the other, is that it really actually gave, since I've made the switch for myself, like I have a more of appreciation of food, and you actually have more of an understanding of what's inside the food when it comes to like the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals and stuff as well. Because I've actually started eating some liver as well. I had some whenever I was in Thailand for the first time in years, because like I actually grew up eating this stuff, and in Denmark as well, they make like liver pate. So it's just like essentially just beef liver with certain spices and stuff that are added to it, you know. So it's like you can tell with some of these cultures and whatnot, it's like they had this knowledge, and you know, and they use these foods, you know, on a daily basis. And
Interesting.
yeah.
You know, also in Switzerland we have something. It's like a pate, like a liver pate, but you can put it on your bread like mayonnaise, but it's made out of liver.
Yeah,
exactly.
They throw it with rye bread. That's what they do in Denmark.
Rye bread, exactly. Here also, yeah, with rye bread. Yeah, rye bread is amazing as well. Yeah, it's funny. It's interesting. Also, since I'm not vegan anymore, I decided that if I eat, or when I eat animal products again, I need to do it more intelligent.
Right.
So as you said, I introduced beef liver, grass-fed beef liver, like super nutritious. If you put it in chronometer, vitamin A goes through the roof, and it's actually bioavailable. Like it's crazy, dude. It's really good.
Like I think one serving gives you like 150 to 200% of your daily, you know, need for it.
Yeah, perhaps for me it's the double because I'm half the weight of you, so perhaps like 4 times.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit, man. And so it's like,
Yeah.
again, then you don't need as much either. You know, so it's like, and then I feel like that negates the necessity of you know, having to essentially incorporate a lot of these like multivitamins stuff into your daily supplementation. So what were the supplements that you were using back then compared to now?
So now it's pretty easy. Now I use a protein powder for convenience. So I have a whey isolate and a pea isolate, both of them, but I will switch to just whey because the amino acid profile is a bit better.
So you like whey protein?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I can digest it pretty good. Yeah, no issues. And then I have creatine still. And sometimes I take vitamin D combined with K2 and omega-3 on days when I don't eat a lot of fish. I would say that's everything I take. And then I also still take nootropics like L-theanine and adaptogenic herbs because they help me to like chill and also prior sleep. So I like them really.
Other than like the mental focus, so what are some of the benefits that you get from these nootropics?
I would say mainly the mental focus, but when I take adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha and chisandra, you kind of adapt to them, like with caffeine. So in the beginning, I take a little bit; it's super strong, and then it's funny. Then I realize I'm way more chill in social situations, and I laugh more. I laugh super easily. I laugh from like little stuff, and I'm just happier in general. I don't know actually what it is. Perhaps because I don't have any cortisol in my system, it helps me kind of to flush out the cortisol. And it's weird. Like I laugh and I'm just like super at ease in every situation. I also can speak better. I realize that especially right now because it's midnight here and I need to speak English, so that's my native language. And right now I'm totally in the flow and I don't have problems to find my words in English, which I have sometimes late at night because my willpower is depleted. So I can also speak better when I take adaptogenic herbs.
Ah, very interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah. Super.
So Are there different ones?
Yeah, they're like, I don't know. I have a book about them. I guess they're like more than 10 or 15.
Okay.
The Russian scientists, they found them back in the days. I guess they're originally from like Malaysia or something like that. I mean, it depends which ones. But the most common used is ashwagandha, which is called smell of a horse, like if you translate it.
Right.
Every adaptogenic herb has also some other benefits besides that. With ashwagandha, you see a little bit of increase in testosterone,
Hmm.
but I guess it comes most. Sorry.
It's a popular bodybuilding supplement as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. Because I saw perhaps you know Josh Bridgman on YouTube.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
yeah,
Hmm.
and he takes ashwagandha after the workout to keep his or to put his heart rate to normal again before he eats. So it's interesting. I started to do that, but I do it with L-theanine. I just drink like half a gram of L-theanine after the workout to chill, and then I eat. So I can also do that. But with that adaptogenic herbs in general, I would say the biggest thing is just less cortisol, more happiness, chill, and then everything that comes with that, more testosterone. And then it depends. Some people react differently to certain adaptogenic herbs. So there's also one called Schisandra.
Hmm.
And it's a little bit woo-woo. I don't know if it's science, but they're like yang herbs and yin herbs. So yin herbs are the herbs that really chill you down. They help you to relax. That like ashwagandha is a yin herb. Schisandra is even more yin. And then there is one. It's called Rhodiola rosea. I guess you have heard of it also.
Hmm.
People take it sometimes when they go off caffeine because it decreases your cortisol, but it also gives you an energy boost. So it's kind of more of a yang herb. Rhodiola rosea. Also ginseng is more yang, and then you have like a whole spectrum of these herbs. There's also another one called gotu kola, I guess. And I like to switch them. Like for 1 month I take ashwagandha, then I take Schisandra again because you tend to like get sensitive to them. I guess you call
Okay.
that sensitive in English.
Yeah.
And then when you reintroduce them, they are really strong at the low dose.
Very interesting. So, what book would you recommend anyone reading to learn about these different?
I need to check how it's called. It's somewhere here. It's called adaptogenic herbs, something like that. I would need to like put it in the description after the podcast. But if you type in adaptogenic herbs, something like that, in Goodreads, you can go on goodreads.com. It's a database for books, and to put in adaptogenic herbs, and then you see all the adaptogenic herbs. All the books about adaptogenic herbs is one of the best rated ones.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I'm
Legit,
definitely
yeah.
gonna have to check that out, man.
Yeah, dude, it's a little thing you can do on a daily basis. But let's say if you have everything else down and you take adaptogenic herbs, it definitely gives you an edge. Especially as an IFBB pro bodybuilder, you need these 1% benefits.
Oh man, it's everything. It's
Yeah.
literally that's the difference. It's
Yes.
that 1 little percent.
Totally.
So, all right, we've talked about like your transition from a plant-based diet up until now. What are some of the benefits that you felt other than like you said, like the anxiety that kind of switched itself? You've never dealt with digestion problems, so it's not like we can really dive into that.
Not really. My digestion got almost worse in the beginning because I came out of a cut, and you
Okay.
know how it is when you come out of a cut and you can basically bulk again. You are still a little bit afraid of like introducing more nutrient dense foods. So I was basically bulking on like potatoes and stuff. And then I had a huge volume of food, and my digestion got even worse in the beginning.
There's something about potatoes for me, man. Is like they would a lot of times they would actually give me gas.
Interesting. Interesting.
Sweet potatoes, on the other hand, never did. But like, yeah, I don't know what it was. It was actually whenever I was in Denmark, man. I started because they're huge on potatoes over there. So I was like getting them pretty cheap. So I was trying to incorporate them into my diet more often. And I noticed that. And then I switched back over to eating more rice. My body tends to really handle rice very, very well. And that's actually one thing that I was going to mention is like, when it comes to nutrition, like there is truly a difference when it comes to people from different geographical regions and how their body can handle certain foods. I don't know if that's anything you've ever dove into.
Oh, dude, I just recently dove into that. Yeah, we can talk about that briefly. Because I had Victor on my channel. I will release the podcast in a couple of days from now. We talked about genetic testing, and he did genetic testing as well. He got roasted by Vegan Gains a couple of years ago because he was the first ex-vegan on YouTube, I guess. And he did a genetic test from, I need to add, he said it in the podcast, I don't remember actually from which company, and he just gave some examples. Like, for example, there's a gene called BCO1, and this gene helps to convert beta carotene and vitamin A. So if you have this gene, you're probably good on a vegan diet because you can get the vitamin A from the beta carotene. But if you don't have that gene, or if the gene is not really expressed, you have no chance to get enough vitamin A. So you will get deficient sooner or later. And there's also a gene, I need to research how it's called, something with FDS. You need it to convert ALA, like the short chain fatty acid, into EPA and DHA. And actually, people from Europe mostly don't have that gene, because we had always meat during all seasons, and we were able to get our omega-3s through meat. But people from Africa, they have that gene. So I don't know how it is for people from Puerto Rico, but it seems like that people from Puerto Rico probably digest rice better than potatoes. Could be. Because potatoes, I don't know where they're from originally. I have no idea.
I think they're from South America.
Even okay.
I believe that's where they're from. But yeah, no, there's also been shown that, like, genetically, actually, people from the Caribbean region are able to essentially break down the fructose sugars within the fruits a lot better. And I was actually talking to, like, this nutritional PhD. This was like some months ago. We did a podcast together, and he was explaining to me how, like, for example, people in, like, Southeastern Asia, like in that kind of region, we're actually able to extract the protein from rice a lot more efficiently as well. So it's like, yeah, there's just different genetic factors that play a huge role. And I feel like how everyone has been able to adapt to those particular regions, like you mentioned, man, like with the people like from where you're from, and like even Scandinavian region, whatnot, you know, you've had this sorts of foods in abundance for thousands of years. So of course, the human anatomy is going to adapt to that certain, whatever it is that you're giving in through genetics over time. You know, this is what's going to happen. Your body, it's like, for example, you talk about, you know, bodybuilding, and with people that they're taking, you know, exogenous hormones, you bring something into the body, then your body will naturally stop producing it because it's already getting something from outside of it. Same thing when it comes to nutrition. I feel like that is what essentially has happened over time.
Good point. Yeah, it's good that you mentioned that, because on all the podcasts I also talked about the conversation I had with my grandparents, because I was really intrigued, like, what did my grandparents eat? Because 3 of my 4 grandparents still live. It's funny, the youngest one is 96. My other grandmother is 98, and my grandfather will be 99 in 1 month. So I was like, okay, probably good genetics. So I need to check what I need to eat to maintain these genetics, that health. So I asked my grandfather, hey, what did you eat back in the day? And he said that they had their own rabbits, they had pork, they had chickens, their own eggs, they had some bread here and there, they had no fruits at all, they had grass-fed dairy, grass-fed butter, potatoes, and that's basically it. And my grandmother also, it's funny, she was telling me a story from like 1930 something when she bought her first banana, because that's like when bananas like came to Switzerland more or less, and she had no idea that she had like to peel the banana, and she ate the skin. Yeah, and she said it was disgusting.
Oh man, that's hilarious. But no, dude, I mean, this is where you're going to get some great information, is from the older generation. And I don't know if, like, to me, in my opinion, from what I've been seeing, I'm actually seeing that people are not actually living as long as that particular generation, because I have my grandparents here as well. My grandmother's, one of them is 85 and the other one is 90, just turned 90 this year. So it's like, you know, if you ask them what their native diet has been, you know, since they were growing up as children, you know, it was quite a bit of like different animal foods that were always incorporated no matter what. Now with being in Puerto Rico, growing up in Puerto Rico, there was lots of rice and beans and stuff as well. But there was always fish. You know, there was always fish. There was definitely always pork. Pork is one of the things that I feel like has been incorporated. And, you know, despite me actually not really eating pork these days, it is a staple food within our region for sure. I know for sure in Denmark as well. You know, hell, even the Polynesian islands, you know, pork is a huge thing out there. We could talk about the Blue Zone Okinawans. They eat tons of pork.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you know, and this is totally contradictory to what a lot of these plant-based doctors try to
Yeah.
essentially put out and say what is considered healthy and not healthy.
Mm.
I really believe nowadays it's really the rise in and lots of the processed foods that has really become the issue. And you see that, and that's another thing, man, is that within like some of the vegan foods that we have out today, it's a lot of processed foods.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, like lab grown meat and all that stuff. Yeah, totally. Too much omega-6 fatty acids. The ratio is totally out of hand. Yeah, because I guess at the end of the day, you need high quality animal products. That's the thing. High quality and non-processed foods, and then just listen to your body, like how you react to stuff. Perhaps you're gluten tolerant, perhaps not. And then you basically go good. You don't need good. You don't need to over analyze it too much. Like if you have low body fat and if you like move and you sleep good, you have good social contacts, you're good, man. Like people want to make it complicated. I don't believe in conspiracy theories, not at all. But I believe there are people out there that want that. We think it's way more complicated than it really is.
Well, I mean, of course, there's going to be these gurus that are out. They want to say, you know, they want to say this or that. You know, whether things are supposed to be a certain way or not. I totally agree, because it's just like if they have some sort of stronghold when it comes to a particular way of doing things, then they're the person that you go to, right? You know, and it's like, you know, people are going to create this sort of environment within this kind of realm, no matter what. But like you
Yes.
said, it's up to you, the individual, to be able to kind of just pick these things apart and figure this out for yourself and what works
Yes.
best for you.
Totally. Totally. And also have the basics in check. I mentioned sleep before, and I see so many people they I had also some clients that were like over analyzing how much protein they should eat. They were worried about IGF-1 and everything. And I was like, dude, like you please sleep 8 hours a day, lose your body fat, and then later on you can worry about the little things. But don't like focus on little things that have nothing to do with your health in the long term, really.
Right, right. Because at the end of the day, I mean, how much is this really, really, truly playing a factor
And
when it comes?
yeah, and even if it would, nowadays I think like, dude, I just want to worry less about my food and live my life. And if this would need if I would like eat less healthy because of that, I will probably still live the same, because I worry less about food. I have less cortisol because I don't worry too much, because there's an eating disorder called orthorexia.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
anorexia, it's orthorexia. And sometimes I guess I was on the way to almost having that, because I was always focused on eating healthy.
yeah. Likewise, man.
Mm.
It's like, you know, to be honest, like whenever that was the kind of thing that broke me from the spell. Was like whenever I was out in Thailand, and this, you know, I discussed this in that video with Bobby when I first met him. Was like, man, I'm sitting here walking around Thailand, like, and actually, you know, some of my friends didn't hang out with me after this day, because
Mm.
we're sitting there. We went to go meet up to go have dinner, and literally for 3 hours, bro, we're walking around the city looking for a place just for me to have
No.
some food to eat, you know, that wasn't rice, because it was like if I go out to go eat, I was having to basically just eat white rice the entire time, because you know the way the Thais cook their foods and not really having that sort of availability. Dude, it was just like, you know, I never experienced that before, because here in America, man, you know, there's plenty of options available, right? I would probably say the same in Europe as well. There's going to be a different, you know, it's like a growing thing, so there's more availability to these foods. But out there, man, it just wasn't the case, and that stress that it was creating within my mind, man, it was like it was a bit of orthorexia for sure. You know,
Mm.
it's like, because you don't, at that point, it's like, what the hell do you consume, man? And I just didn't want to have that feeling anymore. It was like, you know, become so food obsessed, and you know, and just like thinking like, oh man, things have to be this way for whatever particular reason. And the reality is that's not really the case. You know, we definitely
Yeah.
to enjoy ourselves and
Yeah.
have a bit more variety. Um,
Yeah. I totally resonate with that, because people right now, I have a lot of people coming from the carnivore community, because I do like collabs with these guys. I guess I will also probably do one with like Frank Tufano soon. And I get like a lot of subscribers from their channels, and they also ask me, when are you going to do like the carnivore diet? And I tell them, like, 2019 is not the year for me to have a black and white mindset about nutrition. I don't want to restrict myself ever again. Perhaps I do like an experiment, but right now I don't want to restrict myself ever again, dude. Like, I hate that stuff. I'm repelled. And perhaps, I guess for you, it's the same right now. You became even a better coach because of that, because you're not getting like trapped by like diet fads ever again.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You know what's crazy, man, is like since I've stopped becoming vegan, I've actually had more vegan clients. You know, just people hit me up because I'm just guessing because they see, okay, yeah, I've been through it all. I understand, you know, I can sit here and understand how to combine foods and do this and that. But, you know, honestly, when I work with these people, I always talk to them about it. Like, what was your reasoning? Is it strictly for the ethics and so forth? And, you know, because I want to get a better understanding of them and, you know, why they choose to eat this way.
Because I also believe the health argument is not really strong anymore. People are kind of waking up.
Yeah. That's the number one. You know, it's because like I want them to understand that, you know, if we go down this route, this is what you want to maintain, which the majority of them do. You know, this is the case. You know, it's not to say that we can't get good results doing it, but it may take a little bit longer. So we need to be able to give ourselves more time to be able to, like, for example, if you're getting ready for a bodybuilding show, you know, it will take more time because we have less options when it comes to foods and what we can consume. Because I try to basically stay away from a lot of the processed, you know, garbage foods, you know, so I'm sticking to a more whole foods diet whenever I do have this approach. And those comes with a lot of tag along carbs, right? So that means we're going to have to be able to increase our caloric expenditure through more cardio or more intense workout of some kind. So there's definitely a lot more variables involved when it comes to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be done. And we definitely need to make sure that we are tagged along those certain supplements that are 100% necessary as well.
Yes. What do you recommend your vegan clients as in terms of supplements?
Stick to the basics, man. Vitamin D3, K2 combo, because that's 100% necessary, especially for people that aren't in the sun often. Definitely B12, like that's an absolute. The omega-3s, EPA, DHA, because I mean, I will always incorporate things like chia seeds and flax seeds into their diet regardless. But I know that conversion from ALA to EPA DHA is not necessarily that great. So we're gonna have to make sure that we do have a more solid source in the diet. I do like to use like super greens, but this is just because I like them. And I find that they're rather beneficial. They have a lot of digestive enzymes that are added to them as well, which I think also help, especially when it comes to like some of the breakdowns of these plant foods. Creatine is an absolute, and that was one thing, man, because I went months, I mean, actually years without using creatine. And I'm not going to lie, like once I was able to reincorporate creatine back into my supplement regimen, along with some branched chain amino acids, especially like a higher content of leucine, that's whenever I started to actually feel a difference. Because one thing that I noticed was like, because I like to kind of venture off and do different versions of the diet. I noticed that, man, like even though I felt okay internally, like energetically, I felt fine. Like I was getting weaker, you know, and it was like at first I couldn't necessarily pinpoint it in my own mind. I'm sure you had the same kind of experience. But that's whenever I actually realized that the leucine really played a huge factor when it came to not only building but maintaining muscle. If you're going to do your diet this way, because if you're eating these animal sources of protein, you're getting plenty. You know, it's like it's not something you even have to think about. So with that's whenever I realized, like, man, this is an absolute must when it comes to it, as well as the creatine. Because when I started reincorporating creatine, I was only doing 5 grams a day pre-workout, along with citrulline. So I make my own pre-workout. I'll do 5 grams of creatine, 6 to 8 grams of citrulline, and then I'll do a 10-gram scoop of amino acids, BCAAs. And that's what I would do. And like since I started reincorporating that, fuck, man, it made a huge difference. Difference.
What's interesting, I saw like one of your most famous videos. It's like a full day of eating.
Yeah.
A vegan full day of eating. And I guess you ate like just like 80 or 100 grams of protein.
It was 120 grams. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And you were like, how many pounds? Like 240?
No, dude, I was 265 at that time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I was eating a ton of carbs, man. Like I was probably that during that video, I was actually like dieting. So like I was only doing, I think, so the macros came out to be about like 55 fat, 120 protein, and like 450 carbs. Yeah. But
Huge.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I enjoyed eating the large amounts of carbs. So, like, the one thing that I felt like I learned from it was you could create more, like, you could adapt your body into a more like carbohydrate, like I guess, to where your body can actually utilize the carbohydrates a lot more efficiently, um, and bringing the fats down. So that was one thing that I did like learn from it. And because dude, it's like I was able for a long time, I was able to stay relatively lean. But the issue is that you have to maintain this. These are the food sources that you're consuming, day in and day out. So if you do cheat in any way, if you do have any foods that are higher in fat, then you start putting body fat on like freaking really
Hmm.
fast. And
Hmm.
that's what started happening. And it's just because again you have less variety involved with the diet, so you can't say like I want to do a low carb day today. Just not happening unless you want to eat a bunch of bullshit food,
Yeah.
So it's like it's just for me, it didn't suit me too well.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Also copied that approach for my cutting phases. I also just cut on like high carb, low fat, medium to high protein.
Yeah. So like for myself, definitely like the lower fat approach always worked well. I usually just like use like trace fats. So and this was even dating back into like my previous years of obviously competing in bodybuilding. That's just the way I did it. I would carb cycle, which is what I'm doing now, is like carb cycling with the diet and allowing that to create the deficit over time and be able to pull the body fat off and essentially and be able to maintain the muscle mass over that period. I just find it to be easier that way. But like I said, the one thing that I did learn was from the vegan diet was that, man, these things are absolutely important. They may not play a role when it comes to like, let's say longevity purposes, because they try to intertwine. A lot of the plant-based doctors would tend to intertwine this stuff. It's like, well, long living this, whatever, but they're not really talking about athletes in a way, right?
Yes, yes. That's the thing I like about bodybuilding, because we as like bodybuilders of guys that are like really athletic, and we are like putting our bodies through such extreme circumstances. Whenever there's a hole in our diet, it's getting exposed pretty easily, pretty quickly.
Oh,
I talked
100%, man.
I talked with Bobby about that. Bobby also said like if you don't do bodybuilding and if you're just like a couch potato, you can be vegan for a couple of years. You will probably not get really depleted and everything. But if you like train hard and if you diet down like below 10% body fat, dude, like you will see if you have holes in your diet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like this, again, that you start to see this all across the board too.
Hmm.
Um, and that, like I said, that was one thing that I noticed with myself was like, because like, for example, you have like the raw fruitarians, right? So these raw people, they're like, they swear by raw foods. I'm sure Bobby has talked about this,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's talked about his experience with it. And this is where like a lot of these things are like on paper, it sounds great, right? Oh, yes, you can get all the protein you need and the amino acids from these particular foods, but the body handles them much differently, and it's like you're not getting the same kind of feel from it.
Yes. Yeah, good thing also you mentioned before, like on one side, plant-based protein have less leucine, so that's one big thing. But the other thing people don't realize is if you digest a lot of plant-based protein sources, you will also get a lot of phytic acid, and phytic acid will also inhibit some digestive enzymes in your gut, in your stomach. So then you will also not even digest all the protein you're getting. So you could get 100 grams of protein through chickpeas, but you will not digest all these 100 grams of protein to like spike your muscle protein synthesis. So that's also a big thing people don't realize. So you have less leucine per 10 grams of protein, and you even don't digest all this leucine. So yeah, it's pretty tricky.
It's a huge thing. There was actually a scientific study that was conducted. I remember sharing this on my Instagram page, where this woman basically says, like, sure, could you consume wheat protein and be able to get, you know, some sort of an anabolism or anabolic response out of it, you would literally have to double your protein intake to get the same anabolic response as if you were to use, like, let's say, whey protein isolate.
Yeah.
So it makes that, so now you're having to think about the added calories that are incorporated within the diet to be able to get the same sort of results. So it's like, yeah, man, there's definitely some because just the bioavailability of the protein of the foods is just far less, you know. And again, it's just like, on paper we can sit here and work this stuff out and make it come out to be absolutely perfect, but in reality it doesn't necessarily work that way.
The thing you also need to consider, it's super interesting, if you digest plant-based protein with a lot of fiber, they spike your muscle protein synthesis also less hard as if you would consume a whey isolate, because the whey isolate is also getting digested way faster. So that's also something you need to consider. You can also argue if this is necessary, because that's a thing. I also saw some studies where they digested whey isolate versus casein. So the casein didn't spike protein synthesis as hard as like the whey isolate, but it inhibited the muscle protein breakdown because the protein digestion was steady.
Right, it's like a slow drip. It's like, I believe, over an 8-hour period.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. So both protein sources have their advantages and disadvantages, but I would argue with plant-based protein sources, you will always not be able to spike protein synthesis to the max if you don't digest the P isolate or something.
Right. So how often, like, what would you say your daily nutrition is nowadays?
You mean like a typical day?
Yes.
It depends on my goals. Right now, I want to gain the most amount of muscle I can possibly gain, because I was bigger back in the days, and I want to get the advantage of my muscle, of my memory effect. So what I'm doing is I'm still on an intermittent fasting approach, because I kind of like the lifestyle. I fast for like 14 hours almost. Yeah, 14, 13 hours. I eat for like 10 hours more or less. But what I started doing is, outside of my fasting window, I consume like a whey isolate shake. So I wake up, I drink a coffee, I drink my whey isolate, I go to the gym, and then after the gym, I eat the first meal. Right now, I eat a lot of potatoes because I digest them super easily. I can eat a lot of potatoes. I have no issues at all. So then I eat mostly like some broccoli with potatoes and fish, or like some beef liver, some really nutritious protein source, or chicken. I don't really care. I just check that it's good quality meat.
Right.
And then later on the day, I do some work. And then I just have a snack, like mostly some dark chocolate. 85% dark chocolate is one of my most favorite snacks. And I just drink a protein shake with that, like whey isolate or like P isolate. And then the last meal of the day is also then again something like really high carb, more or less low fat. Again, potatoes, so like some sourdough bread with another protein source. I also love like chicken legs. I started to crave chicken legs, perhaps because of the collagen. Like when I eat chicken legs, I eat like all of it, not the bones, of course, but I just crave it.
Like the thighs?
The thighs, yeah, the thighs.
Okay, yeah.
That's the last thing I craved on the vegan diet. Like I craved cottage cheese till the end, and chicken legs.
Very interesting. Chicken thighs are, like, honestly, they're very full of flavor. Good stuff.
Yeah, they're good. It's a little bit paradox, because I own birds myself. Like we have birds that breed just as a hobby. But then I eat chicken legs. In the beginning, I felt a little bit like a hypocrite. But I was like, dude, that's the thing my body craves. That's the thing I need to do.
Right.
So
it's all about perspective, man. Like, to be honest, like, you know, I hate when I'm sure people hate that I bring this up often, but, you know, like, when you read the Bible, it states, you know, that we are given these foods to consume. They are here to nourish the body. Yeah. There are certain foods that I feel are more beneficial, which are going to be the animals that essentially are able to break down the plant foods and make it a more bioavailable source for us to be able to eat. Those are the best foods for us to be able to consume. And then the rest, like, you know, I don't know, but like, it's there. And I am one to believe in what the Bible says. And, you know, certain people tend to hate that. They're like, oh, you believe in this old thousands of year old book, la da da da, you know, but, you know, I feel like it's there for a reason, you know.
That's a good point. It's a good point. I also tried to get rid of that cognitive dissonance I experienced by eating meat in the beginning. So since then I feel a lot of gratitude always when I eat an animal product. I
Exactly.
take my time, I look at it, and I thank myself, I thank God, I thank the universe that I got that food on my plate, because I
Right.
realized since I eat more animal-based products, it's weird, but I got more life energy. I got like more drive to do things in life. So I tell myself this animal is gonna give me more energy and to create good things. So because since I'm not vegan anymore, I created my podcast, I've met you, I just have more energy, more drive. I'm happier, and I'm like, okay, these animal foods are like kind of fueling me to do good things in the world. So I'm rather a meat eater that is like super happy and does good things, instead of being like a vegan activist that is like just spreading also like a lot of hate, and you know what I mean. So that's
Yeah.
like my thing.
No, man, and that's what it should be. It's like you give thanks for the sacrifice that this food has been there on this plate for you. At least that is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I know there's going to be people that don't necessarily like that opinion, but I find it to be rather like truthful,
Yes.
um,
Totally.
because that's exactly how I felt. You know, honestly, it's like I've gained that perspective back as well. And whenever I think back too, because like, you know, I've kind of gone through my own little spiritual journey over the years. And I feel like whenever I was my most calmest and like centered in a way, like, you know, I was actually consuming quite a bit of like, you know, yogurt. So that was like my main dairy source was like a Greek yogurt. Um, I still had chicken in the diet and fish and all these things. But it was very well balanced in a way, right? And I noticed that like I was never really able to attain that while I was eating just a strictly plant-based diet. It was just something that I kind of thought about.
That's interesting. Yeah, same here. Yeah, same here. Same here. So you basically reintroduced dairy right now, or what did you?
So actually, personally, yeah. So I started. I found a really good because I think they call it skyr back in
Mhm.
Europe. So it's like I found one over there in Thailand, and there's a brand here that's rather. I feel like it's probably the best one. It's called Fage, Fage is how it's spelled. But it's like a very thicker consistency. It's one of my favorites, and that's what I would use. I'd actually I'll add a little bit of like cocoa powder, like cacao powder, and then I would throw in like some blueberries and stuff, and that was that's some of the dairy that I would use. I haven't used a whey protein yet, haven't gone that far. I don't know necessarily whether or not I would like to.
Mhm.
You know, but I'm definitely at this point I'm not opposed to like reintroducing things and testing things out and seeing how my body essentially reacts to certain foods. For my own personal diet, as of late, I've been keeping it rather simple, man. So I've actually been reincorporating quite a bit of like red meat into the diet. I don't do it every day, but I will have some, you know, throughout the week. I try to do the liver at least twice a week. I would like to have more of it because I actually like it, man. Like my grandmother
Mhm.
makes some of the best liver, dude. She'll make it with onions. So I think she adds a little bit of vinegar and stuff to it. But dude, it's freaking fantastic. So I'll have that with some like rice and vegetables. Um, and like I said, I've been carb cycling a lot, so I've still been eating like relatively high carb days, maybe like 500-600 grams of carbs. I put on quite a bit of weight, dude. Since the last time we've talked, man, I've put on like 30 pounds, man.
That's crazy in 1 month, dude.
I've bulked up big time. Been working on my gains, man, because I'm just trying to make sure that I'm able to. Because I was looking back, man, like and it's like it's crazy because in hindsight, of course, you can be able to see all this. I was looking back at some of my older photos and seeing just how much the muscle quality, the difference that I had within my physique, you know,
That's
from the
interesting.
past
Yeah.
compared to then. It's like now I'm having to really rebuild that, and it took me for me to be able to get back to like 265 because like I purposely cut down whenever I started like the whole vegan experience just to see how I can build muscle on it. It took me like 5 or 6 months, man, to be able to build my physique up to that level where now, like, dude, with all other scenarios the same, 4 to 6 weeks. It's crazy.
Crazy.
So there's
Crazy.
definitely a huge difference in how the body responds to the food, man. And this is
Totally.
what I love about this experience, man, because we are becoming our own scientists. We are finding out the truth for our own self, you
Oh
know,
yes.
and it's like we're able to be able to bring that experience onto our clients and give them the best, most solid advice possible, unbiased advice. It has no bias whatsoever.
That's a good point, because the reason I became vegan in the first place is also to become a better coach. It's just always the purpose.
Right.
And I did it. Yeah, I needed 3 years, but I did it at the end of the day. I wanted to ask you as well. Did you experience some problems with your libido on the vegan
Man,
diet?
man. So like it would come and go. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like sometimes, you know, it would be there. And then, but to be honest, man, like, you know, given the fact that I've been involved in bodybuilding and I've done certain things to my physics, you know, to my body, that kind of thing essentially kind of just, it does have its moments. But while I was, because like I stayed pretty much natty throughout the entire time, other than during that few months that I did the show prep. So it was like 4 months. I decided to use a little bit. Yeah, man, it was like, it was hit or miss sometimes, man. But now, bro, it's like night and day. Like, I'm
Yeah.
kind of upset that Anne is back home because it's just like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no way to express myself in this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the topic of libido, because back in the days when I was cutting down for a photo shoot, I had lots of libido, but it's normal. Like if I dip below my body fat settling range, or I experience less libido. But
Right.
when I was on the vegan diet, I had like the same amount of body fat than right now, which is my body fat settling range. But I had less libido. It was weird. Normally, I would have been able to like, I would have been like horny, like at a normal level, like I should be at like age 24, 25.
Right.
But it's just not the case. So that's also a pretty interesting thing. To this day, I don't know what it was. Perhaps it was like the cholesterol or something. Because it's funny, like Tim Sheaf, the first time he ate salmon again, he had a wet dream. And the same happened to me. I had sushi, I had salmon, bam, wet dream the same night. And
Oh.
I just slept 5 hours on that day. Normally I don't have wet dreams when I sleep 5 hours. So it's super weird, man. I don't know what it is. Like, more research needs to come out for sure.
Man, that's very interesting. Very interesting. For me, like after I had that sushi with Bobby that day, like I'm not, dude, like the next day, literally, bro, like I just felt like my body just like filled out, and I felt like almost like as if I put on like crazy amount of muscle overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It was just insane. It was crazy how my body felt, you know.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
it's like you're not able to know this or ever feel this if you don't try it for yourself and dive into, you know, which is why, like, the crazy thing for me is like whenever I started that, like I never intended for it to be something that like I ever became dogmatic in any sort of way. It was just, it sucked that eventually got to that point, because and then it removes again the science out of it. But it's like I'm thankful that, you know, I maintained myself throughout the whole process and stuck to it 100%. That was one thing, is like I honestly, dude, I never cheated, not a single time. Like, you know, like because I told myself, I'm like, I want to be able to make sure that I can get my blood work done, test all these things out, and make sure that everything is 100% exactly what I say it was. So it's like I can be able to use those as reference points from, you know, whether I decide, you know, to change things up or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. Yeah,
That's kind of a curse also as a bodybuilder. You are really disciplined, so that's an advantage, but it can also bite you in the ass.
Right. Because I mean, dude, it was for me, like whenever I was doing the prep for the show, that's whenever I started to really notice like some of these things within myself and how my body was handling it. But it's like you at that point, you almost don't want to believe in anything because, you know, you're so fully invested into it, man. It was crazy, man.
Yeah, that's the pity. Like, you don't want to be dogmatic when you start on the vegan diet, start out, but it kind of catches up to you, the dogma, because you look to these, or you listen to these vegan doctors, and you cannot do anything against it. It's like human nature almost. It sucks you in.
Right. You know, and it's like you get, because like especially with social media,
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things. It's like because the community is pretty strong on Instagram, right? So it's like everyone is, you know, pretty much rather supportive, and you know, you don't want to feel like you're letting anyone down. It's like, you know, these sort of like things that we just become as humans, you know, just kind of tends to kind of pull you, and and it just I feel like it's definitely like almost like a cloud in the way, right? You're not able
Yes.
to see as clear anymore.
Yes. That's the reason why I really also appreciate Bobby and what he did on YouTube. He was like one of the first guys that really came out and they told to his audience, like, I'm not vegan anymore. And yeah, I appreciate him even more because of that, because it takes a lot of guts and courage to come out. And because his whole, for you the same, like almost your whole, perhaps for you a little bit less because you did bodybuilding before, but his whole community was basically vegan, I would say.
Right. Well, I mean, even for me, like during that time, like I was building, it was pretty much like a lot of the engagement that I was receiving was basically all vegan, man.
Mm.
So, because I feel like I pretty much alienated a lot of the original crowd that was there, to to a fault in a sense, because yeah, it's just, but that's what happens. It's like this is what it becomes, right? This is all you want to talk about. You feel like you found the truth, like, oh man, this is it. But yeah, man, I'm just glad to be able to kind of get back into being who I am. Why I started this in the first place. To earn my pro card and be the best bodybuilder that I could possibly be.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you anyway, because I'm not really well versed in the IFBB competition world. So as soon as you have your pro card, you will be able to compete in the IFBB, or you already compete in IFBB? And then you will compete in Olympia, right?
Right. So, okay. So for myself, this is how everything is structured within the NPC IFBB. So you have like your local level shows. And then from there, once you win your class, essentially whatever qualifies you to compete in the national level shows, which are the pro qualifiers, that's where you can earn a pro card, right? So that's like, man, dude, it's been, since I've always placed top 5 at the national level shows, I have never had to basically go back and do a local level show yet. So it's like, if you place out of the top 5, you don't qualify yourself for the next like year. So yeah, so I've been, it's been good that I've been able to do that. So basically, depending on the particular show that you're competing in, they have different standards. So the USA's, which is in Vegas in July, if the winner of each weight class will get their pro card. This is specifically bodybuilding. Different classes or categories have their own sets of rules. But for bodybuilding, yeah. So USA's is the first class winner. At nationals, you have top 2 in the class. All right. And then you have another show called North Americans. So these are the 3 bodybuilding shows that you can win a pro card here in the States. North Americans is, I believe, the top 4 within the overall. So not only do you have to win your class, you have to place top 4 in the overall. And then you can earn an IFBB pro card. So then from there, that qualifies you to compete as a professional. And then of course, now you're into those ranks, and then you work your way up through there. So to be able to compete at the Olympia, the way the rules are set now is like they have a point standard, and then they also have just wins. So if you win one of the pro shows, that automatically qualifies you for the Olympia.
You're right, yeah.
And then for the other way that you can get in is to be able to have enough points. So like if you place like second enough times or whatever, then I believe it's the top 2 in points will also receive a qualification to the Olympia. Then you have different standards for the Arnold Classic. The Arnold Classic you actually have to apply for, and then if you get accepted, I don't know how this works, but I believe they take care of like all the stuff. They take care of flight, hotel, all these things. So it's pretty cool.
But at the Arnold Classic, you can just compete as a pro, right?
They have an amateur as well, so you can earn. Yeah, I forgot about that. You can earn pro status at the Arnold Amateur.
Right. Okay.
Like last year, I did the Olympia, the Amateur Olympia, and at the Amateur Olympia, you had to, I believe, win. It would have to be top 2 that in the overall they got their pro card. So you not only had to win your class, but you also had to place top 2 in the overall. I ended up getting 3rd in my class. Which to me was a miracle, man. Like I was a shell of myself physically, and it was like I was in such denial too, because I was just like, man, like, at least my shape carries me a long way. I get lucky because I have, decent genetics for bodybuilding. So it's like that really, really kind of like carried me throughout the entire time. Because condition.
Sorry for like interrupting. With decent genetics, you mean like broad clavicles, good muscle bellies and stuff, right?
Right. Well, just the way my body responds
Hmm.
to all this stuff, like, man, like literally I can go look at a weight and I'll start putting on muscle. It's insane. Like just like with this, dude, like I put myself in the scenario to be able to build muscle, and literally within 6 weeks, my physique is transformed. Like
Yeah,
I'll send you pictures, bro. Like you'll see, it's absolutely absurd. This it's like people wish to have my genes, like when it comes to
yeah,
body. Because like I'll have clients that literally, man, all scenarios involve absolutely the same. I can give you the same plan that I'm following, and they'll have a totally different result that comes out of it.
yeah,
But it is what it is.
yeah, sure.
So it's definitely, my body is definitely well tuned for the bodybuilding game, which is why I continue to do it. If I was never any good at it, I would have stopped years ago.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And I guess it's also the reason why you didn't deteriorate that fast on the vegan diet, because you have such good genetics.
oh man, dude, I was literally fruitarian, and I'm still weighing 235 pounds.
Yeah, right.
Like my body, like legit, dude. If you watch some of the videos of me prepping, I'm eating grapes all day, and then like my last meal of the day was like I would literally, I would have like this huge bowl of like vegetables, bro. So artichoke hearts, spinach, broccoli, cauliflower. I mean, it would work out to be like, dude, it was so much volume, but it would work out to be about like 80 grams of carbs, 40 grams of protein, and like no
Dude,
fat.
dude, yeah,
But of
crazy.
all vegetables, man, all
Yeah.
vegetables. Because like at that point, I was so scared. Because like here's the thing, like I had my friend helping me out for a little bit. He was giving me like numbers and stuff, and then like here, I think the one thing that he didn't really didn't keep in mind was that I eat so many carbs all day that there was no need to do a refeed. So like one of the days, like dude, I ended up losing like 7 pounds in a week, dude. Like, but it was, I feel like it was a lot of like just inflammation and stuff. But like to him, it was like, all right, man, let's get a refeed in. So we did 1,000 carbs. So I do this 1,000 carb day, and honestly, I hit it relatively easy. But I was eating a lot more rice and starches and stuff for that day. And dude, like my body just like, it was like, because when you go from eating a majority raw diet, dude, like my body was just like, it was like glue, dude. So it was like everything just stuck to me, man. And I was like holding on to so much throughout the whole week that it almost like mind fucked me, and it wouldn't allow me to eat certain foods again.
Hmm.
Cause it's like, I felt like, no, I was like, I couldn't do it this way. And then it's just like, yeah. So I started like, that's why I started to eat more of the raw diet. Cause like, man, it just made me feel better. But physically, it didn't give me the same results like
Yeah.
that I needed in order to be able to compete at a high level.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that about guys like you that are competing at such a high level. It's so interesting to see what your nutrition does to your physique and to your performance. Because as I said before, if you're like a couch potato, if you're vegan or not, you will not really realize it. But if you compete at a high level, you put yourself through such extreme circumstances. You have like shredded glutes, you're like 5-6% body fat, like real 6% body fat, not like YouTube 6%. Because
Oh man,
on YouTube, like a guy like Greco Gallagher is 6%, but he's not really 6% body fat. Like
no,
a
not
guy
very
like
close.
Alberto Nunez is perhaps 6% body fat, but he's like shredded to the bones.
Literally see-through skin.
Yeah, yeah, especially for him. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
he's an incredible bodybuilder, man. 100% natural too, as well.
yes,
And it's just, he's one of the main people that also got me onto like tracking macros, which is
yeah,
essentially what I do now. I've just been
hmm,
tracking my macros, man, and because I know food, I know what to eat. I understand sound nutrition. I've been doing this for years, so it's not like I really struggle with this. And it honestly, like for me, like usually what I'll do is like I'll track macros some days, but then I also create my own little set meal plan. So if I want to follow like just particular meals for a day, it's already there.
yes,
Simple. Because like you
yes.
said, nutrition should not be something that we have to sit here and think about endlessly. It should really come with ease.
Yes, exactly. And I guess for guys like us, especially, we are like so good at that, we can easily stand in our own way.
Oh, totally. Totally, man. Totally. So I have
Yeah.
this question here. Someone asked me, how many days do we train abs in a normal week? So Charles, how many days do you train abs in a
To
normal
be
week?
honest, right now I don't train abs at all.
Any particular reason?
Uh, I realized I have insane genetics regarding. I don't have really good genetics regarding muscle building. You said you can just look at the weight and gain muscle mass. I'm exactly the opposite. But I have really good ab genetics. Like for my height, I have like really huge abs, symmetrical abs, and I'm like shredded. They look amazing. So I trained them a lot back in the days. But now I realize if I would train them right now, I would perhaps gain a little bit of ab size, but I just don't need it from an aesthetic standpoint. I also have like not really narrow hips, so I have like normal sized hips, and it doesn't make my physique really aesthetic if I would train more abs. So I don't train them anymore right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I personally work my abs 3 times a week, but it's just because if I don't, I'll lose that conditioning in my midsection, and not so much like with the way it looks, because I do feel like there is a difference. If you train abs, then you have a little bit more depth within the abdominals, like just the way, like it's just like any other muscle, right? You know, you train your biceps, you get more density into that muscle. Same thing with your abdominals. You get a little bit of more density, and they look more crisp whenever you're at a leaner body fat. But for me, the one thing that I was mentioning is the conditioning aspect. Is like if I stay away from training it, just like if you don't do calves, right? Let's say you don't do calves for months. You decide to do some calf raises. You're literally walking on your toes, just like dying for at least a week straight. So the same thing with me. If I don't train abs, like I'll cramp, like I'll struggle hardcore with my core stuff. So it's like I have to do it just to maintain that. One thing that I have started to incorporate more often, though, is doing like vacuums. I feel like that is one of the major keys and major factors to being able to maintain a tiny waist.
That's a good point of the vacuums. One of my friends, Peter, is called the Hungarian Experiment on YouTube. I had him on the podcast on episode 5. And if you type in on YouTube vacuum tutorial or something, he has, I guess, like the #1 video or something. He did an experiment on his channel. His channel is all about experimentation. So he has like a tutorial how to do vacuums. It's also like, yeah, pretty important, as you said.
Yeah. I'll do basically what I'll do is like every morning when I wake up, like it'll be a part of like my meditation practice. So I'll get up and I'll actually do these vacuums. I'll do like basically 6 sets. Right now I'm at only 10 seconds. So like my goal is, I remember RIP Rich Piana. Rich Piana was the first person that brought this to my attention, was like trying to build it up to a 20-second hold. So it's like you go in there and you basically just suck your midsection, because what it does is it works that transverse abdominis. And that's one issue that I feel like a lot of these physique people, bodybuilders especially nowadays, is that they'll train their abs maybe, but they're not working that transverse abdominis. They're not working, because it's like, you know, I feel like this actually dives into like what causes a bubble gut. Right. So you have these people that eat tons of food and they either don't train their abs, or if they do, they don't work the inner core. And essentially what ends up happening is you have all this huge volume of food within your belly, and you're constantly walking around this way. So like what's going to eventually happen, right? Your body will eventually adapt to that particular setting that you've held it within. And then it just maintains your abdominals in that manner. So you just have a little pooch. Even though you're shredded, you have a belly.
Yeah, good point. Good point there. By the way, I don't see the chat. Do we have more questions there?
Man, it was just one.
Okay.
I feel like because I kind of ignored some of them from way back in the day when we first started. Jonathan, do you still train Mountain Dog, specifically high frequency programs? Personally, I do train. I haven't been training Mountain Dog specifically. I don't know if you know who John Meadows is. But yeah, like I use his workout programs for a long time, man. And I feel like, honestly, like he taught me that I needed way more volume within my own training. And like whenever I started incorporating his training programs into like with myself, like it's like literally my physique took itself to a whole nother level. So I definitely use his like kind of the mindset behind it with my training, but I don't necessarily do it anymore. I've been creating my own programs lately. So now let me ask you, Charles, what is your training structure? How do you train usually every week?
Yeah, it's interesting because for the first time in my life, I got my first coach, because I don't want to waste any willpower anymore with structuring my own training, because I tend to overanalyze. So I'm getting coached by Steve Hall from the YouTube channel Revive Stronger. Really nice brand. They work together with Mike Israetel. They will have a conference in London next month. And he gave me an upper lower split because I also wanted an upper lower split. And I train like 4 times a week. And we periodize it like with reps in reserve. So during the first week of my mesocycle, I let like 3 to 4 reps in reserve, which is quite a lot. And then through the 5 weeks, I go to muscle failure. I also increase the reps regarding my fatigue. After every workout, I need to kind of rate my fatigue that I experience. And then we kind of go from there. So we increase the sets. We go to failure at the end of the 5 weeks. And we also increase with the weight, of course. And then every 6th week, I do a deload.
Okay, so it's basically focused on progressive overloading.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm like bulking right now pretty aggressively, so I gain around 2% of my body weight every month, which is quite a lot for me. So I don't weigh a lot. I weigh like 140 pounds, and every month I gain. How many pounds do I gain every month then?
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
5'9" at 140.
Dude, my body structure is super skinny. Like when you look at my wrists are like the same size as like almost women at my height. That's the thing I said about my genetics. I am a super small frame guy. If I'm like 145 pounds and real 10% body fat, I already look aesthetic because my clavicles are really like not how you call it, narrow.
Very narrow. So you have like
bones.
more of a Model S type physique then.
Yeah, like ectomorph, Model S. But I'm lucky I have like really good ab genetics and really good bicep genetics. I have a good biceps muscle belly. So when I'm in a shirt or when I'm like shirtless, my upper body is in a good shape. I also did a DEXA scan, funny enough. And it's funny, my upper body has exactly half of the body fat than my lower body. I store most of my fat in my lower body. So I have like the perfect summer body physique kind of type. But if I would need to go on stage with shredded glutes, it would be a pain in the ass because my upper body would already be stage lean 8 weeks before the show. So that's the reason why I guess I will never compete in like a bodybuilding show, perhaps men's physique or something. But it would be a pain in the ass, like literally.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens with me, man. Like I hold a lot of fat in my lower body, especially my glutes. It's like the first thing to go, man. So it's like, that's why honestly, like my best preps, I take 20 to 26 weeks long. So
you need to. It's a good length. It's a good length, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that way you're able to maintain your muscle mass throughout. But dude, I'd be curious to see if you put on a little bit more size. Obviously, this is exactly what you're working on right now. But I'm definitely curious to see like how you would look with a bit more muscle on you, man. Being 140 pounds, man, that's relatively small. I mean, keep in mind, you and I are both the same height, and I weigh essentially 130 pounds more than you. Exactly. So that's how we can basically kind of use that as a reference point.
Yes, that's the thing I wanted to do with a coach, because I know how to bulk up. I exactly know what to do, but just I self-sabotage too fast because I'm like, I'm getting too much fat. So I have a coach just to keep me in check.
100%.
And at the end of last year, I was 130 pounds because I had to shred down for a photo shoot. I was still on a vegan diet back then, and my goal is to be 30 pounds heavier at the end of December 2019, so then I can check in. Yeah, but you're right, I definitely need more size, and I'm just gonna push through it. So let's see what happens.
Before I dive into more questions with you, let's look into this little chat here. So we have Alexis says, never heard of this guy, but seems interesting. Yeah, man, Charles is a very interesting character, my friend.
Yeah, I kind of came out of nowhere.
Nah, he's been around. He's just, we've just been kind of silent.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this says, hey man, just saw your 48-hour fast video. Any tips for my first 48-hour fast? So when you fast longer than a day, I would recommend that you definitely consume some electrolytes. So make sure, I had an electrolyte powder that I was using. It was a combination of both sodium and potassium and magnesium. You can get away with just using some salt and potassium. There's stuff called new salt, NU salt. You can just get it at the grocery store, and then pink Himalayan sea salt. Add that to your water, and then that's pretty much it. And then just you just don't eat. Have you ever done extended fast, Charles?
To be honest, the longest I did is just 20, 23, 24 hours so far. I want to do more, but I never came around it.
Yeah, honestly, with your size, bro, I don't think it's really necessary.
It's not good, right? Not good. Not good. My coach would also not approve, so.
Right, right, right. That's the one thing when you hire a coach, man. You make sure you listen to him. Don't go off doing things
Yes,
because then it serves no purpose.
exactly.
And that would go with some of my clients, man. Sometimes they like to go off and do their own thing, and I'm just like, come on, guys, like let's stick to the program.
Yeah.
I
It's
gave
also
you
the
the
good.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's totally right. It's also the good thing to have a coach because I just want to be forced to try new stuff.
Right, right, right.
That's yeah.
And actually, for this show, I'm gonna be my friend is gonna be helping me as well, just because for that exact reason, man. Could I do it myself? Absolutely. I came in the best condition in my entire life, me prepping my own self. But at this point, I just want to basically not have to worry about it. I
Yes.
just want to just check in. Here's the pictures, my man. What are we doing next? What changes do we need to make?
Yeah.
Just like I do with all my other clients.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I can't stay fasting more than 12 hours. Actually, that video, it was actually a 72-hour fast. I only filmed the 60 hours because I was trying to weigh myself that evening, and the fucking battery of the scale died. So, like it's not like it is the same thing here. I can go to like Walmart 24 hours, go pick up a battery in the middle of the night and and do what I'm intended to do. Over there, these grocery stores close at like 9 o'clock. So it's like if you miss it, you miss it. You got to make sure you go in the next day. So that's essentially what ended up happening. The one thing that I did learn from the extended fast, man, what is that eating is a habit. It is something that we've built. It doesn't necessarily have to happen so often. This is why I enjoy even an intermittent fasting protocol, because it's like it keeps you away from that obsession of needing to consume food every 2 to 3 hours, like the typical bodybuilding diet is said to be over time. Like this is where and honestly, this is where I appreciate Lane Norton as well, is because I learned from him that 6, 7 meals a day was total bullshit. I actually was only doing 3 to 4 meals, maximum 5 if I was up for a very, very long time. And I was actually spreading my meals like every 4 to 5 hours or so. And that's whenever I learned that I could have bigger meals in one sitting and not necessarily have to focus on eating, like I said, every 2 to 3 hours a day. How does your coach have your meal structured right now? You said you were doing
Um,
intermittent fasting, so you're doing what, roughly three meals a day?
yeah, I would say I get 4 protein feedings. That's the most important thing. And I get 3 real meals. So I get 3 meals in my eating window. And outside of my eating window before the workout, I'm getting a whey isolate because I want to combine the best of both worlds. I want to get the most out of my training, but also follow an intermittent fasting regime. So that's how I do it basically. Yeah, keep it simple, yeah. Because if you look at current studies, I would say 3 protein feedings every day is like the minimum to get like maximum gains, and
Right.
then 4 could be a little bit more beneficial. We don't know yet so far.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's one thing that the science has also shown is that you need those kind of like those highs and lows with your basically the protein intake. So that way
Yes,
you have that peak and allows it to come back down so you continue to get that peak again. If you're
yes.
constantly feeding yourself, then you never get that push, that anabolic response with the protein.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Then you also see guys that say, "Yeah, meal frequency doesn't matter. I do like OMAD, or like I do 2 meals a day. Okay, OMAD could possibly work, but you don't get the most benefits. Like,
I
no
agree.
way,
I
no
agree.
way.
I think at the very least, if you're going to do it, 2 meals, right? So pre and post, because that way you get that you definitely get that post workout nutrition to help your body get back into a more anabolic state. Um, and then, but like, yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel
Hmm.
like definitely, like you said, 4 meals a day is probably the most beneficial. This is actually something that me and Bobby had talked about as well,
Hmm.
because
Hmm. Yeah.
I had considered doing OMAD. I love to follow the snake diet guy, which is where I got the whole idea of doing the extended fast, because like I was just like everyone else. Of course, in bodybuilding, you have to make sure you're eating X amount of protein, X amount of food, and so and so and so on. Doing a water fast is absolutely absurd. What are you doing? You're starving yourself, blah, 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 blah. But then you really look at the information, you see like, man, there's definitely something to it. You can create things like autophagy, for example, which is essentially where your body consumes its own cellular waste, which is what I feel is highly beneficial for people like, cancer patients, etc. And
Yeah.
I think it'll actually allow your body to kind of not allow that state to ever occur. Same thing with the whole IGF argument as well, right? So if we have increased IGF, then guess what? Fast a little bit, you can bring that down. So it's like, and I really feel like that's where that benefit comes. There's a guy, Seamland. I don't know if he's from your country or not.
He is from Scandinavia somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, but I love his work, man. He's
Yes.
been doing some great work, and he has the book, a matter of fact, I'm going to buy it. I was waiting till I got home to purchase his book, but I
Same,
definitely
yeah.
want to get into that, man, and really, really, really learn a little bit from him. But
Simland, yeah.
yeah, he has. If anyone that is on, obviously, if you're watching right now, I'm going to type it into the chat. Check this guy out.
It's funny, like people made fun of me because they thought first I'm like Simland. I was on the Swerige's channel.
Yeah.
I did an interview with Sverige, and people like commented, it's Simland. Hello, Simland. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I saw that actually because I watched that video.
Oh,
but,
cool.
But dude, like his information is definitely like groundbreaking, man. It's
he's dope.
him and like I said, Snake Diet, Cole Robinson, man. Like I would
need to
love
check them out. Yeah,
I would
Snake
love to have them both on the channel. I want to interview them both, man. And just so we can kind of get some of this information out there, because fasting is a great way to not only, obviously maintain a lean body fat, because it limits your time frame of being able to consume food, which I feel is a huge problem with today, is that people fucking eat out of boredom. So it's like we talk about, high body fat levels and stuff, and basically creating these. And also another thing is that when we overconsume too often as well, it creates more inflammation within the body.
Yeah. Do you know Walter Longo?
No, I don't.
He's the author of the book The Longevity Diet, and he also talks about like fasting and how to increase longevity, because he studied a lot of old living people.
Yes.
And he brings also the argument of mTOR, IGF-1, protein intake, but at the same time, he also brings the argument of looking at what your heritage is, what your family members ate back in the days. So it's a pretty interesting book. It's also called the Longevity Diet. He goes like into the direction of Simland, but Simland is kind of taking that knowledge and it's making it more applicable to like younger guys that are interested in like lifting weights and everything.
Right. Yeah. See, that's where the blue zones. So when they initially came up with the blue zone, studying the blue zones, that was one of the things that they found out, that it wasn't necessarily that, that they were eating a plant-based diet in any particular way. It was the fact that their total caloric intake was actually much lower than other people's that were dealing with some of these inflammatory diseases, because that's essentially what these diseases are. It's just inflammation. You have inflammation, then it's like you start causing disease. So it kind of limits that factor. And that was one of the main things, was that they ate far less calories. Someone asked, what are the blue zones? Blue zones are the regions within the world that essentially, well, for the plant-based doctors, they use this as a way of being able to push the plant-based agenda. But they're some of the most longest living communities within the world. Right, so that's essentially what the blue zones are. They have, like, for example, the Okinawans, I believe. What are some of the regions in Europe?
In Italy, and also in California, the Nova Linda.
Right.
Nova Linda, Italy. I don't remember, something like that. Yeah, in these regions.
Right. Yeah. So that's essentially what it is. That's what the blue zones are. So we have someone that asks, Mike. Sorry, Mike. I have a kind of a complicated couple of questions. In your opinion, for a client who has a really solid structure and muscle build, is still around 18 to 20% body fat, would you have them drop weight or just stay where I'm at till it's showtime? Mike, I'm not kind of confused. What is it that you're asking? Because obviously, if you're looking to drop body fat, then you need to be able to pull some of that weight down. Tongi, you're late. No, you're not. It's okay, man. We're diving into different topics right now. Jarrett, any experience with the Mountain Dog high free? Yes. So we actually just answered that recently. I still follow a very high frequency program. So basically, because I was doing push pull legs, I was really enjoying it, but my workouts were just way too long. And like I like to be able to get in and out of the gym within 60 to 90 minutes. My push pull leg workouts were they were taking me like 2 hours long. So I was like, I had to cut that program out. And I went back to more of a structure that I'd basically been doing with Mountain Dog, which is like I'll do chest and delts together. I'll train back by itself. I'll train legs by itself, and I'll do an arm day by itself. So, but instead of doing it like the way he had it, I'll just basically go through a 4-day stretch. So it's like, you know, chest and delts, back, legs, arms, rest, repeat. I find that to be highly beneficial in this moment. But like me and Charles were actually talking about, as far as like with progressive overload, that's where the mindset is just progressively overloading, you know, each and every week, making sure that I'm either getting more reps in or I'm getting more weight in. So far, I've been able to do both. So it's been very good so far.
Exactly. So many people overcomplicate that stuff too much.
Right. Training is not complicated at all. I really feel like that is something like you talked about earlier, where people were just like, you know, try to hold this secret, right? Like I got the secret. But no, when it comes to training, it's really just one way.
Yes. And if you worry about it, get a coach, and then you're good.
Right. Exactly. I always tell people, like, if you need help and you need something that's structured, whatever, hit me up on my website. I always have the links in the description box. Fill out the questionnaire, and then we can kind of go from there. I'm sure, obviously, Charles offers his own coaching as well. You're mainly based out of, you said Germany and Switzerland right now.
Switzerland, Germany. I did coaching for English-speaking people, but I realized I'm just not taking advantage of my personal strengths. And my personal strength is I can read a lot of English books. I have access to English experts like you and like guys that are like pros. But I speak German and Swiss German at the same time. So why should I not dominate this German market and use my strengths? If I coach English-speaking people and I'm on the English market, I'm basically just handicapping myself because it's not my native language and stuff. So yeah, you need to
totally agree with that, man. Take advantage, be the king in your area. That is the best way to go about it. I have a buddy of mine. This is actually why I ended up going to Denmark in the first place, was doing a fitness seminar with this guy. His name is Mark Cisse. I'm not sure if you're very familiar with him or not. He was in some of my older videos. But that was one of the things that he basically emphasized, because I told him, I was like, dude, get on YouTube, man. I was like, and to be honest, like had he gotten on YouTube whenever I first met him in 2014, he'd probably have 1 million subs. This dude is like, he just has that personality. But anyways, he's very Danish, and his English is pretty broken. So it's like he mastered the Danish market. Like I remember his Facebook page from when I met him went from like 20,000 followers to almost like 100K, dude, within a year. Like they just killed it. And then I have another friend right now. His name is Anas, is spelled Anders, Anders Anderson, right? So no, but this dude is a beast, man. He's also just cornered the Danish market, absolutely destroying it. Just like, you know, just killing it, man. And this is if you want to do coaching within a particular region, man, focus locally. That is how you're going to do your best.
Yeah, totally. I agree, 100%. Especially because if you understand the English literature, you're almost on the edge of science. Especially because when you like follow the evidence-based crowd.
Absolutely. I mean, look at what's his name? Jeff Nippard, right? That's exactly what he structured his channel around, and he's like in the millions now, and it's like continually just flowing like crazy. Like he skyrocketed his following.
Yeah, crazy.
So yin yang. This guy asked me, how do bodybuilders eat so much and stay so lean? Well, when you essentially train the way we do, you build more lean muscle mass. That's going to allow you to keep a lower body fat. In my opinion, this is going to come from some of the bodybuilding pros as well, is that, you know, you just have to keep a sound diet. You know, for me and for some of the guys that I talk to, you know, we keep our fats relatively like within a good range. They don't creep up too high, especially if you want to eat a lot of carbs. But if you keep it relatively balanced throughout, then you'll stay lean. It's not until you start incorporating too much of the junk food, too many cheat days and stuff. Like if I were to do cheats, I would limit it maximum 1 time a week. And then that's pretty much it. But that's how you stay lean. That's how you keep your body fat down.
Calorie balance.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't know if you follow my friend Nick Dompierre. Like he does like these crazy cheat days, but that's one of the things that he's mastered this. He's mastered the cheat days and being able to keep a relatively leaner body fat level. It's just like he has that day where it's like crazy high calories. And I also think one thing, since we're on this topic, is like when you do consume excessive amounts of calories, I don't really believe that your body absorbs a lot of it, because it's like, it's just if that were the case, you would get really, really fat within those days. But it just doesn't. It doesn't, like, the evidence doesn't show me that it does actually happen. So someone actually asked here, does royal jelly increase testosterone, or is there not enough evidence to make that claim? Would you happen to know anything about royal jelly?
What's the royal jelly in the first place?
I'm guessing it might be something from like Asia.
I guess if it would increase testosterone that much, we would already know about it. So I don't think so.
Right. I agree. Let's see. What I mean to say is, where body fat wise do you like bodybuilders walk around at an off season? I'm still confused, Mike. Typically, like, see, for me right now, I'm pretty, like, I'm fatter than I would like to be. So like I would like to maintain my body fat around 9-10%. I just knew that I needed to be able to pack on quite a bit of size so I can get my previous form back, which is why I allowed myself to get a little bit more fat onto my body. But yeah, you would like to be able to maintain a body fat level around that range. As a bodybuilder, it just makes it a lot easier, because then whenever it comes down to cutting down for a bodybuilding show, you don't have to run into those, like, just those times where you have to take things to like crazy extremes.
Yeah, dude. It's interesting. Well, my coach actually also says in the off season, you need to be a performance athlete and not a physique athlete. And this helps me a lot, because right now I'm not looking the best, but I basically perform the best. So
exactly, you have to focus on performance. I totally agree. That's where I feel like a lot of people tend to forget, is that they'll just essentially just kind of do their own thing and not necessarily focus on getting better. The way you get better is during that off-season time frame.
Yes, dude. It's way more fun. You can get away with so much volume, so much weight. It's way more fun, dude.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Why not think about getting stronger and, and working on some of these weak points, some of the, let's say if you suck at deadlifts, man, work on that shit. Get better at it.
Yeah, totally.
So this guy asked, it is fed to queen bees, greatly responsible for their huge size compared to the other bees in the colony. We'd have to definitely do more research on it, man. Maybe next time we'll get on it and we'll talk about royal jelly.
It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, that's
because I guess everything that increases testosterone in the normal range will not give you like huge muscle gains. You need to really like get like double the amount of testosterone or triple it even.
I agree. Okay. So, Charles, would you happen to have any questions for me, man? Or
for you?
Yeah.
I guess I asked you almost everything in our chat, I would say. I don't have anything more to add. Right now, not really, to be honest. Cool. Perhaps it's also because I'm tired. We're already like 2 hours in.
Damn, has it really been that long? Holy shit.
It's like almost 2 a.m. here in the morning.
Oh, my bad, man. Time flies.
No, it's really like I really enjoyed it. Like, if I have any questions for you, I mean, let's just do another podcast on my channel, because you were like episode 2, and now I'm at episode like 13 or 14. So I would say like around episode 20. We can have you on again. Would be cool to have you as well, like together with Bobby or something. Like to have like a round table of like more than one guy.
I would love that. I think that would be freaking fantastic.
Yeah, like Joe Rogan style, have some other guys there. Would be let's do something like that with Bobby together or with another guy.
Yeah. So let's get that work together with him then, man. I want to ask the chat if you guys have any additional questions for my man Charles here. Throw them in the chat below.
Perhaps I need to explain my glasses. Some people ask me sometimes. I'm wearing blue light blocker glasses because it's almost 2 a.m. I wear them before sleep. because they reflect the blue light that comes from the screen and from the light here. Because if I get blue light to my eyes before sleep, my body produces less melatonin. So I realized before sleep, I always wear these glasses. They look kind of fancy. I'll also wear them when I go out at night. That's a funny side note. I have them in my leather jacket. I put them on in the club. And it's funny how many people already approached me because of these glasses. But they work. I sleep amazing.
That's awesome, man. What is that a particular brand that you have?
They're called Swannies.
Swannies.
SWA. Sorry?
Where do they sell them at?
At like $80 or $100.
Okay.
Yeah, it's decent for the benefits I have. Yeah.
Are you able to purchase them in the US as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The guy that makes them is from California.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
Pretty legit. Like if you want to start biohacking, just buy blue light blocker glasses. Like the first thing you need to do, because then you sleep way better.
I definitely got to get some, man.
Yeah. Because people, sorry, yeah, go on.
I was gonna say that was one of my main problems being out in Thailand, man. Was like, of course, I'm by myself a lot, so a lot of times before I would go to bed, I might like tap into a little bit of YouTube, and I definitely felt the difference of me not being able to sleep because I'm, you get that white light.
Yeah, same. I mean, I still watch YouTube before I sleep, but on one side I wear these glasses, and then I don't watch like Game of Thrones when like people are getting slaughtered before I go to sleep. That's not good. I watch like podcasts or something chill. I don't watch like vegan debates or something chill.
Hilarious.
But actually I talked yesterday with my coach, my podcast, what he does before sleep, and he actually takes a warm shower like 30 minutes before he goes to sleep.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I could imagine, even if you add maybe a little bit of lavender to it as well.
Yeah,
I think that would also kind of have that sleep calming effect there.
Yeah, he's like the guy. If he can get like 1% more out of something, he does it. Like really, really inspiring.
How long has your coach been around?
Since I don't know actually. 2014, 15. He has an inspiring story because he had a head injury. So he injured his head. He was like a van like drove into him, and his how is this gland called in the brain that makes like these hormones? The pituitary gland, something, I don't know. And he had like problems with like his hormones in the beginning. He had like edema,
Pituitary.
Exactly. Yeah. And he still decided to start to do bodybuilding because he lost a lot of weight. And then he started to compete. And his brand is called Revive Stronger. His whole podcast is called Revive Stronger because he basically revived stronger through his head injury. And now there are like 3 or now in 4 coaches. And I like the brand. I like the message. So I also like the guy. He's a really cool and down-to-earth guy. He's a huge nerd. You can clearly tell through his videos, and he has a podcast. Basically, he has like Eric Callums on there, Mike Israel, and it's just cool to work with a guy like that because I mean I like his podcast, and then I'm able to talk with him on a weekly basis. So It's super inspiring to see. Yeah,
that's legit.
Yeah, it keeps me committed as well. Like really committed. That's really important.
Yeah, I definitely have to check him out, man.
Yeah, Revive Stronger. Like perhaps you can even get him on the podcast if you want. He's really open to do like podcasts and stuff. Yeah, especially because you guys have both a bigger audience. So he's I would say he's down.
If you don't mind, like reaching out to him and asking, I would definitely love to have him on, man. Seriously.
Yeah, sure. He's also in contact with. Do you know Jared Feder?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big with him, like good buddies. So we will get introduced to his social circle. So yeah, why not, dude?
Totally, man. Totally. I would definitely love to have him on.
Good guys. I like the competitive side of bodybuilding. I learn a lot from you guys because, as I said before, you put yourself through such extreme circumstances that you can learn a ton from that mindset.
Oh, absolutely, man. This is like, I feel like bodybuilding has taught me so many different life lessons and just like really, I don't know, man. And again, so much science when it comes to the human anatomy as well. It's amazing, man. It's amazing. Yeah. It's a blessing to have kind of been led down this path in life, honestly, because it also has led me into doing what I do today, and as far as working with individuals and and just allowing them to be their best selves. Like that is my ultimate goal, is like being able to help people through nutrition to understanding and getting more in tune within their own self, their own body, so that they can focus on being their best self.
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
a good
important.
point. That's a good point because in the plant-based or vegan, I don't want to talk too much shit about veganism, but in the vegan community, you see like, yeah, be your best self, but they just focus too much on the spiritual side of things. But
Right.
as a bodybuilder, you focus way more on the other extreme, like like results, muscle gains, pushing through barriers, mental barriers, dieting. I really like that because it really also sharpens your mind to a huge
100%.
degree.
100%. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like it kind of allows everything to come full circle. Again, like we talked about before, like I am grateful for all the experiences because this is why I believe, to be honest, we go through what we go through is so that we can learn from them. But that's the key is to learn through the experiences that we go from, that we take in,
Yeah.
and become better from them. Because if not, you'll continue to kind of just revolve around in circles and continue to go through the same things over and over again until that breaking point happens.
Yes. Yes, totally. Awesome stuff. Yeah, do you want to wrap it up after 2 hours?
Yeah, man. So I feel like we're
I would
coming. It ended up being pretty long.
I would
I
love to talk longer, but I realize like I'm getting sleepy
Yeah,
and I
man.
need to perform tomorrow.
I understand, brother. Let's
Good
definitely
stuff.
get you on again another sometime in the future, man. Like you
Sure.
mentioned, talk to your coach, man. I'd love to have him on. I think that would be a great addition to these little live discussions that I'm holding on the channel. Um,
Yes.
if you want to go ahead and close out, just tell people again who you are, anywhere they can find you.
Mhm.
I'll make sure to link your channel in the description box below as well, so that way they'll have that link. And yeah,
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so you can just type in Coach Charles in YouTube because my family name is too complicated to write down, especially as an English speaker. So Coach Charles, and my channel is mostly right now is focused on podcasting. I want to become the Joe Rogan of the ex-vegan and like fitness nutrition community. So you will see a lot of podcasts there. I also document my training there. I also do like videos where I talk alone. But I just realized like podcasting and it's what I'm passionate about right now. And you will see a lot of stuff there. And they will probably have Bobby's perspective and Frank Tufano on there next week and a lot of other guys. I also want to get you again, also Jonathan, on the podcast together with Bobby and other guys. I just want to create like awesome conversations with guys that are into nutrition, bodybuilding, and all kinds of topics based around that. So yeah, you will see that there, and yeah, would really appreciate to see you guys there.
beautiful guys. So make sure you guys subscribe to his channel, and we're gonna close this out now. So I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation that we had here this evening. And until next time, everybody,
Awesome.
peace out.
Peace out.